They left Maya Redhawk for dead after the blast tore her legs apart. But fate wasn't done with her yet, and neither was the desert. Before we dive in, don't forget to like the video and tell us where you're watching from. Stories like this deserve to be remembered. Spring, 1881, Arizona Territory. The sun baked the land into cracked clay. The wind carried no comfort, and where the Apache trails once ran, only silence remained. That's where she lay between life and death, her breath shallow, her blood soaking into dust, and her name nearly forgotten. Only a leather cord tied around each thigh slowed the bleeding, and that wouldn't last long. Her tribe had vanished into the rocks and wind, and the dry mouth of the Arizona desert offered no mercy. She lay on the cracked earth, lips split, skin blistered under the punishing sun. Buzzards circled above like slow prayers. Blood pooled beneath what was left of her legs, soaking into dust. She wasn't crying, she hadn't screamed. There was no one left to hear either sound. The warpath had ended 3 days ago. A Union shell caught her behind a ridge, shrapnel biting down like steel wolves. Elijah, her brother, had found her just before nightfall. He hadn't said much, just gritted his teeth, built a fire, and did what needed to be done with a hunting knife and a bottle of whiskey. When she woke, he was gone. So were her legs. On the 4th day, Maya stopped hoping. She drank the last of her water. She whispered her tribe songs to the wind, each word sticking in her throat like ash. The earth didn't answer. Then came hooves, slow, unhurried. A shadow stretched over her face, blocking the sun. Bo Callahan hadn't meant to find anyone out here. He was looking for a stray calf, not a dying woman with eyes that refused to shut. But the moment he saw her, he stopped. She looked at him, unblinking. Dried blood, dust, and dignity. Even without legs, she held herself like a warrior. "You still breathing?" he asked, kneeling beside her. She didn't answer. Didn't need to. He scooped her up like lifting a bundle of kindling. Light, too light. Her head lolled against his chest. Her heart still beat, but faint as a drum on the far side of a canyon. Back at the cabin, he cleared off the workbench. It was the only flat place big enough. He laid her there, cleaned the wounds again, checked the bindings. Her breath came in soft hitches. He worked quietly, as if not to wake her, though her eyes never closed. That night, she drifted into fever. He sat by her side, feeding her spoonfuls of boiled broth, wiping her face with cool rags, whispering things he hadn't said to another soul in years. When the fever broke 3 days later, she blinked slowly, then turned her head. "You could have left me," she rasped. "Bo met her chase." "I didn't," he said. The desert was still there, just beyond the door. But now, between the two of them, there was something else. Not quite safety, not quite trust, but something alive. She closed her eyes, still breathing. When Maya Redhawk opened her eyes, it wasn't the sky or her brother she saw. It was a ceiling, low beams, rough timber, the smell of ash and pine. Somewhere, a kettle hissed. Her mouth was dry as cotton. Every inch of her body ached, but the pain in her legs, or where her legs had been, was strangely muted, like a scream held underwater. She turned her head. The movement made her vision blur. A man sat by the window, his back to her. Broad shoulders, hat tilted low. Silent. "You," she rasped. Bo Callahan turned just enough for her to see his profile. Not startled, not smiling, just present. "You're still breathing," he said, same as before. Maya tried to sit up. Her arms shook. She managed an inch off the bed before the pressure hit her like a wall. She dropped back down, eyes burning. "I'm not broken," she muttered. Bo stood, crossed the room, poured water into a tin cup. He didn't offer help, just placed it within reach on the table beside her. She stared at it, then him. Then, slowly, she reached out, hands trembling. Water splashed onto her chest, but she drank like it was her last gift on earth. "Where am I?" she asked. "My land. About 20 miles west of Copper Ridge." "You brought me here?" "I did." "Why?" He didn't answer. The silence between them was thick, but not cruel. Maya rested her head back against the pillow. The rough fabric scratched her skin, a reminder she was still alive. She tried again later that afternoon. To move, to lift herself. Her strength hadn't returned, but her stubbornness had. She pushed herself upright, biting back the groan. Bo entered just as she was trying to swing herself into a sitting position. "You'll fall," he said. "Then let me." He didn't argue. He watched. When she wobbled, he stepped forward and steadied her with one hand on her back. It wasn't tender, just practical. Maya gritted her teeth, sweat beading on her forehead. "I need to move," she said. "You will. In time. Number now." Bo left the room. When he returned, he was dragging something behind him, a low, wide wooden frame with two wheels crudely attached. Leather straps across the seat. Handholds sanded smooth. She blinked at it. "You made this?" He nodded. "After your fever broke." Maya reached out, fingers brushing the wood. Her throat tightened. It wasn't beautiful, but it was hers. That night, she sat in the makeshift chair, rolled herself to the window. Bo sat by the fire, sharpening a knife. Neither spoke. As the moon rose, she whispered, not to him, but to the room, "You didn't leave." He didn't reply. He didn't need to. Maya Redhawk didn't ask for permission. The moment Bo stepped outside to chop wood, she gritted her teeth and shoved both hands against the wall. The floor felt like it was miles below her, but she moved. The chair scraped against the planks. Her palms blistered on the worn wheels. Every muscle screamed, but she moved. She made it 2 feet before the pain in her back exploded. Her breath hitched. Sweat poured down her face. Bo returned to find her halfway to the stove, body shaking, jaw clenched like a trap, ready to spring. "You're going to tear your stitches," he said. She ignored him. One more push, then another. When the chair jammed against the table leg, she cursed. Low, fierce. Bo crossed the room. For a second, she thought he might carry her back. She braced herself not for the pain, but for the pity. But he only knelt and freed the wheel from the table, then stepped back. She nodded once. Not thanks, just acknowledgement. That night, he brought in scrap wood and old wagon wheels from the shed. She watched him work from her spot by the fire, sanding, cutting, adjusting. By morning, the chair rolled smoother. It didn't creak. It turned when she wanted it to. He didn't say a word about it. Neither did she. Days passed. She practiced from dawn to dusk. She fell more than once, bled more than once. But every evening, she made it back to the fire on her own. One night, she burned her hand on the kettle. The pain was sharp, real, almost welcome. Bo bandaged it without comment. She looked at him then, eyes sharp under messy hair. "You always this quiet?" He didn't look up. "You always this loud?" She laughed, a rasp more than a sound, but it was laughter. The first since the explosion. Later, as the wind howled outside and the fire snapped low, she stared at the flicker of her own shadow on the wall. "I'm not dead," she whispered. Bo, still sharpening his knife, didn't look up. "Didn't figure you were." "No," she said. "I mean, I'm still here." A long silence stretched between them. "Yeah," he said finally. "You are." She turned back to the fire, pulled the blanket tighter around her. And for the first time, it felt like something inside her, something long buried, had started to burn again. The morning light poured through the cracks in the cabin walls, dust floating in golden beams. Maya wheeled herself to the doorway, paused, and stared at the outside world for the first time since she'd lost her legs. Dirt, sky, fence. Nothing had changed, except her. Bo was out by the corral, hammering something into the fence post. He hadn't said much that morning, not that she expected him to, but he'd left the door open. That was invitation enough. She pushed herself outside. The ramp he'd built creaked under her weight, but held. The air smelled like sun-warmed earth and distant rain. Her fingers gripped the wheels tighter. Every push forward was a fight, but she kept going, inch by inch, until she reached the shade of the porch. Bo turned when he heard the wheels. "You come out to supervise?" he asked. "I come out because I can." He gave her a half smile. Just a twitch of the lip, but it was the first real expression she'd seen on him. They didn't speak much that afternoon. He worked. She practiced turning, reversing, pivoting without tipping. The chair responded better now, either from his improvements or her stubborn learning. Probably both. Later, she tried boiling water on her own. The kettle was heavier than she expected. She spilled it, burning her thigh. She cursed again, loud enough to make Bo glance in through the window. "You need help?" he asked. "Number." "All right." But 10 minutes later, when she returned to the chair, it had a new strap on the side for steadying the pot. That night, as they sat on opposite ends of the room, she broke the silence. "You got a name?" He looked up from his carving. "Bo." She nodded. "Maya." "I know." She stared at him, eyes narrowing. "You read it from my pouch?" He didn't answer. She leaned back, watching the flames dance. "You could have turned me in. For bounty, for spite, for nothing." "I didn't." "Why?" He met her eyes. "I don't deal in why, just in did." There was something steady about that. Something maddening, but oddly comforting. Later, she wheeled to the fire, her blanket trailing behind her like a cape. She didn't ask him to help her in bed, didn't need to. Before she closed her eyes, she whispered one word into the room. "Bo." He didn't say anything, but the fire popped, and she smiled. That was enough. Maya burned the cornbread. She didn't mean to. She'd measured every scoop of flour with the precision of a rifleman, followed the recipe etched in memory like an old scar. But the flame danced higher than expected, and by the time she pulled it from the stove, the edges were black as coal. She stared at it, chest tight. Bo walked in from the barn, dust clinging to his shirt. He sniffed the air, set down his gloves, and crossed the room. "I tried," she said before he could speak. He took the plate, sat down, and cut a piece. The crust crunched, smoke curled upward. Then he chewed, slow, steady, and swallowed. Maya watched him, waiting for a smirk, a comment, anything. But Bo only nodded. "Bit dry," he said, "but it's hot." She looked away, heat prickling her neck. Not from shame, from something else, something warm. They ate together that evening. Same table, same plate, no distance between. He didn't ask why she wanted to cook. She didn't ask if he liked it. After dinner, she rolled herself outside. The porch boards groaned, but held. The air was thick with the scent of dusk and wood smoke. Somewhere out in the dark, a coyote cried. Bo followed minutes later, a mug of coffee in each hand. He handed her one. She took it. They sat without speaking for a long time. Finally, she asked, "You always live like this?" He shrugged. "Didn't used to." "What changed?" "You." Her fingers tightened on the mug. Not from surprise, but from the weight of it. The realness. Later, before they turned in, he paused at the door. "You ever think about after this?" She met his eyes. "You mean when I ride off into the sunset, with no horse and no legs?" Bao didn't flinch. "I mean, if you stay." Maya didn't answer right away. She didn't need to. That night, for the first time, they both slept through the wind. No weapons under the pillow. No fear in the silence. Just two people, under one roof, no longer strangers. The dust rose before the rider appeared. Maya watched from the window, her fingers tightening on the edge of the sill. The trail beyond the fence shimmered under the noon sun, but the outline of a man on horseback cut through it, tall, upright, deliberate. Bo had seen him too. He stepped out from the barn, rifle slung low but ready. His boots crunched across dry earth. The rider didn't rush. He stopped 10 paces from the porch, reined in his horse with a flick. Colt McKinley. Bo didn't need an introduction. Men like that introduced themselves by the way they held still like a rattlesnake coiled in plain sight. "You Callahan?" Colt called out. Bo nodded once. "I'm looking for a woman. Apache. Scar on her collarbone. Might have lost her legs." Inside, Maya froze. Her breath caught, her hands curled. Bo didn't look back, didn't flinch. "Haven't seen anyone like that." Colt tilted his head, eyes scanning the cabin. "Lingering too long." "You sure?" Bo stepped closer. "You're on private land." Colt smiled, slow and mean. "Everything's private until someone buys it back." Silence stretched like a rope, about to snap. Then Colt pulled the reins. His horse turned. "Well, he said. "If you see her, don't blink too long." He rode off without another word, the dust swallowing him. When Bo stepped back inside, Maya hadn't moved. "That's him," she whispered. "The one they sent." Bo nodded. "I figured. What'll you do?" He looked at her, not with pity, not with fear, but with decision. "Whatever it takes." That night, they didn't talk. They didn't sleep much either. Maya sat near the fire, knife in her lap. Bo cleaned his rifle. No music, no comfort, just readiness. And outside, in the dark beyond the window, the coyotes stayed quiet, like even they knew something was coming. There was a rug in the corner of the cabin that Maya had never really noticed. Faded, frayed at the edges. It had always just been there, until Bo lifted it. Underneath, a square of wood, a handle, a trapdoor. She stared. "You built that?" "Started it the day your fever broke." He pulled it open. A narrow stair led down into shadows. Cool air drifted up, smelling of earth and something faintly metallic. Maya wheeled closer. Bo struck a match and led the way. The cellar was small, barely tall enough for him to stand. Shelves lined one wall, jars of beans, jerky, bullets. A cot lay folded in the corner, alongside blankets, water skins, and a second rifle. Maya looked around. It wasn't much, but it was survival. "You think he's coming back?" she asked. Bo didn't answer. That was answer enough. She touched the wall, rough dirt against her palm, then looked at him. "I'm not hiding." He met her eyes. "No, you're preparing." And of the two, they spent the afternoon testing the door, how to close it quietly, how to pull the rug back fast. Bo hung a second lantern down there. She arranged supplies into reachable rows, not because she planned to run, because she refused to be caught unready. That night, he handed her a sash. Thick canvas, wide enough to tie around her waist. "What's this for?" "You'll see." She spent the evening with a needle and thread, fingers slow but deliberate, stitching one word across the cloth. "Steal." The next morning, she rolled the sash and tucked it under her pillow. The cellar was ready. So was she. And for the first time, fear didn't freeze her. It focused her. They didn't knock. Two men in union coats rode up just before noon, dust trailing behind them like smoke. Their boots hit the ground heavy. Their badges caught the light. Maya was already in the cellar. Bo had seen them from the ridge, given her the signal. No words. Just a glance through the window and a nod. Now he stood on the porch, arms folded, calm as old stone. The taller soldier stepped forward. "We've got reason to believe a fugitive might be hiding in these parts. Native woman, missing limbs, dangerous." Bo didn't blink. "You seen any limbs like that grow back lately?" The soldier's jaw twitched. "Mind if we take a look inside?" "I mind," Bo said. "But I figure that won't stop you." The second soldier, younger, shifted on his feet. "We'll be quick." Bo stepped aside, not welcoming, just yielding to inevitability. Inside, they moved slow, eyes scanning every corner, hands hovering near holsters. One of them paused at the rug. Maya held her breath below, motionless. Her fingers wrapped around the sash tied tight to her waist. The soldier's boot rested on the edge of the trapdoor. Then he moved on. They found nothing, because there was nothing to find, only dust, old wood, and silence built from trust. Outside, the taller one turned back. "If you see anything strange, you'll report it." Bo didn't answer, just watched them ride off. When they were gone, he pulled the rug back and opened the door. Maya blinked against the light. "They looked at me," she whispered. "I could feel it." He nodded. "They'll be back." He nodded again, but his hand was steady as he reached down and helped her up. No rush, no panic, just readiness. That night, neither of them slept. But they didn't speak of fear. They spoke of how many bullets they had, how many meals, which window had the clearest shot line. And in the cellar, beneath the blanket, the word she'd stitched waited with her. Still, the sun hadn't risen yet when Maya rolled herself out to the porch. The chill bit through her shawl, but she didn't mind. Her breath came in visible puffs, slow and steady. Behind her, the cabin still held the warmth of sleep and firewood. But out here under the bruised sky, the world felt honest. She didn't tell Bo she was coming out. Didn't need to. He stepped onto the porch minutes later, 2 mugs in hand, set one beside her, then leaned against the railing. For a long while, neither of them spoke. Then Maya said, "I'm not going back underground." Bo didn't answer immediately. He sipped his coffee, eyes fixed on the horizon. "Didn't think you would. I'd rather die on the porch than rot beneath it." "That's your choice." She looked at him. "And yours?" He turned to her. "I'll be where you are." It wasn't a promise. It was a fact. Later that morning, they began preparations not for escape but for a stand. Bo reinforced the windows with planks, hammered crossbeams behind the door. Maya checked ammo, organized supplies. She couldn't run, couldn't fight like she used to, but she could aim. She could burn. They both knew what was coming. And it came fast. By sundown, dust rose again on the trail. Not 2 horses this time. 5. One of them wore no uniform, but Maya recognized the silhouette even from afar. Colt McKinley. He hadn't ridden away. He fetched more teeth. Bo chambered around. Maya wheeled herself into place by the front window, rifle across her lap. As the riders closed in, she could hear them laughing. "Callahan?" Colt's voice rang out. "You've been harboring ghosts?" Bo stepped outside. Alone. Calm. Colt pulled his horse to a stop a few feet away. "We're not here to kill her, you know. Just to bring her back to where she belongs." "She belongs where she chooses," Bo said. Colt chuckled. "You get sentimental, Callahan?" "No," Bo said. "I get prepared." Colt's smile faded. "We can do this easy. Or loud." Bo glanced back at the cabin. "She's made her choice. So have I." A pause. Then Colt raised his hand. The shot came not from the soldiers, but from Maya. It cracked through the window, splintered the edge of Colt's saddle. His horse reared. He cursed, wheeling back. Then the real firing began. Bo dove behind the water trough, taking out the lead rider's shoulder in one clean motion. Bullets ripped through the fence, into the walls, through the porch beams. Inside, Maya moved like breath slow but exact. She reloaded without trembling, aimed without blinking. One of the soldiers tried to circle to the back. She caught him through the side window. Bo made it to the tree line, flanking the riders. Another fell, screaming. But Colt made it to the porch. He kicked the door in, boots echoing on wood. Maya didn't flinch. Her rifle was empty. But her knife, the one Bo had left on the table days ago, was in her hand. Colt saw her. He stopped. "Well," he said, "you always were hard to kill." She didn't respond. He stepped closer. "You really think this man's going to keep you safe? You think they'll stop coming?" "No," Maya said. He tilted his head. "Then why?" "Because I'm not prey." She threw the knife. It hit his shoulder not deep, but enough to knock him back. Bo came through the rear door like thunder, shotgun raised. "Step away." Colt turned, blood on his shirt, eyes burning. "You shoot me and 10 more come." "I shoot you," Bo said. "And you don't." They stared. Then Colt smiled. Cold. Bloody. "You're both dead anyway," he said, backing out slowly. But he didn't fire, didn't charge. He left. The riders followed. Dust swallowed them once again. The silence afterward wasn't peace. It was aftershock. Smoke drifted through the cabin. Blood stained the floor. Maya's hand shook from pain, not fear. Bo sat beside her, wiped soot from her face. "You all right?" She nodded, then whispered, "Still." He touched the sash around her waist, smiled faintly. Outside, the sky deepened into dusk. No one spoke, because there were no more threats. Only choices, and the ones they'd made. The cabin smelled of gunpowder and broken wood. Maya sat by the window, her hands wrapped around a cup of broth, still hot. The edge of her sleeve was singed. A scratch ran across her collarbone, nothing deep, but proof she'd stood through the fire. Outside, the wind stirred the dust, whistling through holes in the fence. Bo was in the yard, hammering a new board onto the porch rail. His shirt clung to his back. There was a quiet determination in every motion, not born of urgency, but of choice. He wasn't just fixing. He was staying. Maya watched him for a long time. The chaos was over. The men had ridden off 2 days ago, and hadn't come back. No bodies left behind, just bullet holes and silence. At first, neither of them had spoken much. Bo cooked. Maya cleaned what she could. They took turns watching the horizon. It wasn't fear that held them now. It was the weight of possibility. That morning, Bo entered the cabin with a bundle of sage and tobacco. He set it down beside her without a word. She looked at the offering, then up at him. "You been talking to ghosts?" "I figured they might be listening now." She took the bundle in both hands. It was clumsily tied, too tight, a little crooked. But the meaning was clear, and it made something sharp bloom in her chest. She wheeled herself out to the fire pit, placed the bundle in the center, and struck a match. The smoke curled upward, soft and slow, not demanding, just present. She whispered her people's names. Not all of them, not the ones she wasn't ready for, but enough. Enough to feel the earth breathe with her. When she returned to the cabin, Bo was at the table, sorting supplies. She rolled past him, then paused. "I wasn't just hiding before," she said. He looked up. "I was waiting to die." Bo said nothing. Maya stared at her hands. "Now I'm not." Still, he didn't speak, but he reached across the table and set something in front of her, a folded map. She opened it. The lines were faded, edges curled. One route was marked in pencil leading west, through the canyons, beyond the ridges. She looked up. "You planning to leave?" "Number." "Then what's this?" "For us," he said. She blinked. "You mean, together?" "I don't got anywhere else I want to be," Bo said. "But you might." She stared at the map, then back at him. The cabin, the chair, the sash tied around her waist, all of it had been about surviving. But this was living. That night, they sat on the porch again. The stars spilled across the sky like broken glass. Maya leaned back in her chair, blanket tucked around her legs. "Where does that road end?" she asked. Bo nodded toward the horizon. "Anywhere you want." She smiled. "Not wide, not showy, but real. I used to think I died out there," she said. "In the desert, after the blast." You didn't." "No," she said. "I think I was just waiting to be born." The fire inside the cabin crackled behind them. The wind carried sage and smoke. Bo took her hand, rough against rough, scar against scar. And for the first time, neither of them let go. The map lay open on the table for 3 days. Each morning, Maya traced the route with her finger from the cabin to the canyons, through the forests west of Prescott, down toward the coastal edge of a world she'd never seen. It whispered with promise, with freedom, and yet, she didn't move. Bo never pushed. He brewed coffee, chopped wood, fixed the porch again, all in the quiet rhythm of someone who had already made peace with waiting. One afternoon, as wind scattered dry leaves across the yard, Maya rolled out to the front steps. The land was still scarred from the shootout. Boards patched bullet holes. Soil clutched the memory of hoof prints. But life had returned. Birds chirped from the fence post. A squirrel dashed across the roof. She looked at Bo, who was oiling his rifle near the shed. "You ever thought of leaving?" she asked. He paused. "Thought about it. Back when the world was louder in me. And now?" He looked up. "Now I think about what's worth staying for." Maya didn't answer. That night, she sat awake by the fire long after he'd gone to bed. The sash with the word "still" was folded beside her, frayed from use. Her fingers brushed the stitching. She closed her eyes and listened to the quiet, to the wind, to the steady crackle of flame. It no longer felt like silence. It felt like belonging. The next morning, she wheeled herself to the table, where the map still lay open. She reached for it, then slowly, deliberately, folded it shut. When Bo walked in, wiping dust from his hands, she held it out to him. "Let's stay," she said. He didn't blink, just took the map and set it in the drawer. That was it. No declarations, no drama, just a choice. And it was enough. Days passed, then weeks. They rebuilt the fence, reinforced the shed. Maya practiced with the rifle until her aim was truer than his. She cooked meals with fewer burns. They played cards in the evening. Sometimes they laughed. Other times, they just sat, always together. The land stopped feeling like survival. It felt like home. One crisp morning in early autumn, Bo found Maya in the yard, carving something into a piece of cedar with her knife. He walked over, curious. She held it up. It was a sign. Still home. He smiled. Where you gonna hang it? She pointed to the gate. That afternoon, they nailed it above the entrance. The letters weren't perfect. One was crooked. The wood had splinters. But it was real, and it was theirs. As the sun dipped low, casting long golden shadows across the fields, Maya wheeled herself beside Bo on the porch. He handed her a mug. They drank in silence. Not because there was nothing to say, but because some stories, the best ones, don't end in words. They end in choice. In staying. In love that doesn't ask to be named. And in the breath that keeps going, even after the dust settles. Still, home. Sometimes, endings don't arrive with a gunshot. They arrive in the quiet, in the way a person chooses to stay when they could have run. In the sound of a chair rolling across wooden floorboards toward a porch bathed in early morning light. In the soft exhale of someone who, for the first time in years, isn't afraid to breathe deeply. Maya Redhawk didn't win a war. She didn't reclaim lost land or raise a flag. What she did was far less dramatic and far more powerful. She stayed. She looked at the scarred ground where she'd almost died and said, "Here, this is where I begin again." And Bo Callahan, a man carved out of silence and routine, answered not with promises, but with presence. He simply stayed too. Their story, in many ways, is quiet. It doesn't shout. It doesn't end with sweeping music or explosions. It ends in a choice, a shared breath, a sign nailed over a broken gate that reads, "Still home." And for many of us listening, that may be the most powerful ending of all. We live in a world that often tells us to move on, move fast, move forward. That healing means going somewhere new, leaving the past behind, starting over with clean slates. But sometimes healing looks like staying still, like rooting down into the soil of what's left and choosing to make something of it. Even if the ground is scorched, even if the walls are scarred, even if your legs are gone and your heart's been broken more times than you can count. What Maya and Bo show us is that survival is not the same as living in that love. The kind that endures often starts in silence, in showing up every morning, in listening without judgment, in building ramps instead of running away. It's about finding strength not in what you can still do, but in what you're still willing to try. There's a kind of dignity in that, a quiet rebellion against despair, a hand on a shoulder that says, "You're still here," and that's enough for today. Many of us, especially those of us with a few more years behind us, have known loss. Maybe not in the form of war, but in other battles, illnesses, layoffs, betrayals, deaths. We've stood in front of doors we never wanted to open. We've watched dreams change shape or fall apart completely. We've had to choose whether to give up or build again. And maybe, like Maya, we've had moments where we thought, "This is it. I don't come back from this." But maybe, like Maya, we were wrong. Maybe we're still breathing, still able to rebuild not into what we once were, but into something new, something true. It doesn't take a battlefield to make someone a warrior. Sometimes, it just takes a morning when you choose to get out of bed anyway, to face the same view, to make the coffee, to tell the truth. And if we're lucky, there's someone beside us like Bo. Someone who doesn't need to fix everything, but who shows up anyway, who helps without pity, who listens without needing the right words, who stays. Because staying, truly staying, is an act of grace. So, if you're listening to this now, wherever you are in your journey, maybe this story was for you. Maybe you've been fighting quietly. Maybe you felt forgotten. Maybe you've been waiting to feel at home again in your own life. Let Maya remind you, even when everything is taken, when the legs are gone, the family is gone, the fight feels lost, there is still breath, still choice, still dignity, still home. And let Bo remind you that kindness doesn't always look like grand gestures. Sometimes it's a ramp built in silence, a meal shared without comment, a rifle laid across a table not to threaten, but to protect. We all deserve that kind of care, and we all have the capacity to offer it. So, Take a moment to reflect. Think of the places you've stayed, the people who've stayed with you, and the moments when you realized that you were still miraculously here. And if this story touched something in you, consider passing it along. You never know who might be sitting in silence, waiting for a reminder that they're not alone. A like, a comment, a quiet share, these small gestures keep our fire going. They connect us in a world that too often forgets to pause, to stay, to witness. Because at the end of the day, we all want to feel like we belong somewhere, like the fight was worth it, like we're still home. And that, dear listener, is never a small thing.